OEM integration is all about getting the right signal because with that signal, that's going to directly result in what type of sound you're going to have. Well, the folks at Wavtech have been dedicated to this mission from the get-go, and today they have an amazing offering of solutions when it comes to OEM integration. Today we've got Chief Technology Officer JASON KEMMERER joining us to tell us all about the different features and walk us through the entire line. This is CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM, all about Wavtech, and it starts now. What's going on, guys, and welcome to another CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu, and as we finalize all the different offerings that are in the category known as OEM integration, we've landed on Wavtech. Who's Wavtech? Have you heard of them? Well, you should, because they certainly have dedicated their entire being into getting you the right signal. From LOCs to line drivers and now amplifiers and beyond, this is a company that started with something really compact and really particular and has now expanded to a full suite that we're going to discover today. Jay, we're happy to have you on. Can you give us a gist of what we're going to be covering on today's show?
Hey, Ben, thanks for having me. Yeah, I mean, Wavtech has been dedicated to this category of OEM audio integration since the very beginning. And what we're going to do today is go through the very compact lineup, which has always been our mission statement, is to address the most amount of applications and the fewest number of models. And we've achieved that with 6 main core models and then a few accessories. So it's a really consolidated line and pretty easy to understand once you know how everything ticks.
Pretty exciting stuff, Jay. We're going to get right into it. But first, an opportunity for our partner, SiriusXM, to remind all the dealers out there why they should love it. And when we get back, we've got JASON KEMMERER, and we're talking Wavtech for OEM integration.
Hey guys, Ricky Lima here from SiriusXM. I had a chance to speak to some dealers and ask them what they love about selling SiriusXM. Here's what they had to say.
Coast-to-coast coverage.
I love SiriusXM for commercial-free music.
It's a great add-on sale and a profit opportunity.
We love selling SiriusXM because you can listen to the same channel coast to coast.
Profitability and ease of installation. It's a no-brainer.
We love selling SiriusXM for its ease of installation, great profitability, and reliability.
People love it.
All right, welcome back, everybody. And as mentioned, we've got JASON KEMMERER from Wavtech joining us. Now, Jay, before we get into the hardware, let's get the story behind Wavtech and how dedicated you are to the OEM integration category. What's the story there?
Well, Ben, kind of a long history back behind when Mike and I founded this company. We've both been in the industry for 30 years and seen it all, done it all. And what we saw was a really big need in the marketplace for integration. Nothing had been done in many years. There was no new product that addressed modern vehicles, and it was really confusing right with modern aftermarket equipment or OEM. So we took a fresh approach from the ground up. I designed everything from the ground up to work with as many cars as possible and every aftermarket application. So, you know, with over 95% vehicle coverage out there in only 6 models, I think we've achieved what we set out to achieve, which is integration simplified with sound quality and core.
All right, Jay, time to dive in. We got a long list of hardware we want to go through. So we're going to start at the very top. This is kind of like bread and butter, gotta have it. Every store needs a LINK DQ. Why don't you tell us what it's all about and a couple of the key features that dealers need to know about?
Hey, Ben, yeah, the LINK DQ represents basically our entire lineup because it has the Wavtech DNA in it that all of our other models do. And the main difference is just the features as you step up through the line. So I'd like to just explain what makes every Wavtech product tick that's represented by the LINK DQ. So LINK DQ can take up to 40 volts RMS input on the speaker level inputs. It's also got RCA inputs, so it's a line driver for aftermarket sources as well. It's got a parametric EQ built into it, which is unheard of. No one else has that in the industry, as well as it is remote level control ready. So this can be your go-to piece. If you don't know whether you're dealing with a factory system or or you want to add it on to an aftermarket system, say typical deck and 4 plus a sub on the RCA outputs, use this as a line driver, so you actually get the level balance between where your main speakers distort and how much bass you want to have. So it's a line driver for that application as well. All of our products have built-in loading on the inside. There's a couple of jumpers you can actually turn them off, turn the loading off if you want to. So that satisfies a lot of modern vehicles that have OEM load detect. And we have our independent turn-on modes, which are simultaneously on, and that guarantees that all of our LOCs are going to turn on no matter which source you connect it to, either OEM or aftermarket, whether it's DC offset or Class D that has no DC offset. So the audio detect will work on that. Super small chassis. Everything we did was for the installer's point of view. We designed these for professional installers. Rounded corners, they don't snag on anything. Multi-layer, 4-layer PCBs to keep it as small as possible. You can hide it away. Even the mounting feet are detachable, all the way down to the speaker level inputs, which are locking detachable terminals. So and the power plug as well. So when you're sticking this behind a dash, it's not going to pull out, and you're going to wonder why you don't have sound after you put the whole car back together. So those core features go throughout the line, as well as the low output impedance and the ability to drive over 10 volts of RMS output. So you get the best signal to noise you can possibly have with our dual input range, accommodating all OEM and aftermarket vehicles for the best signal noise and the widest dynamic range.
Yeah, Jay, an absolute must-have. Definitely recommend 2 or 3 of those in inventory at all times, because you know what, they're gonna come out handy, especially if you're going through a good rotation of vehicles in your shop. Now, another tool that Wavtech has super handy, and I'm going to let Jay explain exactly how unique this is. The unit is called a bass restore, and as you may surmise, this has something to do with getting bass back into your signal.
Hey, Ben. Yeah, the bass restore, of course, has everything that the Link DQ does, which that in itself makes it unique in the category of bass restoration. But we also took just a completely new approach to bass restoration, which has been around for about 30 years, but until now, it's never been a true preamp. It's just what you put in is what you get out plus the boost. Whereas ours is a true preamp. It's like I said, just like the Link DQ, can take up to 40 volts input, up to 10 volts RMS output. You can use it strictly as a preamp. You don't even have to use the bass restoration process in there, but that bass restoration processor allows you to add bass back into music content that doesn't have it, like older 80s metal recordings that didn't have a lot of bass, and it also gives you the ability to adjust your bass on the fly. And by doing that way, ability to do a remote that has essentially 2 knobs in one. It's got the normal main knob, which is for your sub level control, and you can use that whether or not you have the bass restoration turned on or not. And you can simply turn it on or off by pressing the knob, depending on what the next song comes along. So you have full control over how you're augmenting your music or correcting for factory signals or both. And you can use the effect knob to control how much bass restoration is being put into your signal. Now, it kind of works. You can kind of think of it as like a parametric EQ, because it does have a center frequency of where the effect is placed, how wide that effect is, and then also how much boost is applied. And that on the main unit, that's set as a limiter essentially, so you can turn the knob up to that point so you don't blow stuff up. Also, it has a variable subsonic filter that protects your subwoofer from being overdriven, because this can create a lot of deep bass in music that doesn't have any originally. The other extremely unique thing about this, unique to us, is that this can work with any factory signal. It can work after the factory subwoofer, for example. So if you want to add more bass or improve the response of your subwoofer system, you can plug this in right after the factory amplifier that was driving the OEM sub, and as well as a high pass channel. So it'll take that music content, shift it down in real time, remaster your music in real time, and give you the bass response that you want.
Like I said, Bass Restore, a very nifty and handy product when bass is needed and it's simply not there. This will absolutely help you out. So our next presentation here that Jay's going to put on is through a family of products. As you've guessed, it's going to be the Link family of products. There are 4 different models within the Link family of product, in a Link 2, a Link 4, a Link 6, and a Link 8. Jay, can you help us walk us through the different models and really what makes them separated and different from one another?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. This is going to be kind of a two-part answer because the Link 2 has much more in common with the Link DQ, although all of our LOCs and line drivers share the common DNA. The Link 2 is the most simple in the lineup in that it's speaker level input only. So it's the only one that doesn't have RCA or aux inputs. It's identical to the Link DQ, other than it doesn't have some of those features, like it doesn't have the parameter EQ and it doesn't have the RCA inputs. But everything else is the same, up to 40 volts RMS input, built-in loading, simultaneous auto turn on, DC offset and audio detect, up to 10 volts RCA output, panel mount RCAs as small as possible. It's your go-to piece for daily installs. If you're just tapping off of a set of factory speakers, rear speakers in most cases, just to add a sub, this is the product that you want to keep in stock, and it works with every factory system out there and gives you a strong, clean signal to make your bass sound great. It's also full range, so you can use it for other applications, but primarily it gets used for bass.
All right, Jay, so that's a Link 2. Let's talk about the other three in this family, which is the Link 4, Link 6, and Link 8, and what makes these units a little bit different.
So the Link 4, 6, and 8 are summing processors, and by the name, you can kind of tell what they do. The Link 4 is a 4-channel, Link 6 is 6-channel, Link 8 is 8-channel. But what makes them really unique is that for every channel of input, you can get an output. Unlike any other summing LOC or processor out there, you only get 2 channels of output. These give you output at every stage, and that gives us ultimate flexibility of the kind of things you can do. For example, this Link 4 is the only one on the market that's a true 4 in, 4 out. So you can put 2 in and get 4 out, or 4 in and get 4 out. But you can also, by the switch here for channel 1, 2, you can sum a factory 2-way, a factory tweeter, and a factory mid up to full range, and still pass through the factory door woofer as your bass signal. And with the included remote, you've got sub-level control. This is actually a digital remote. It comes with Link 4, 6, and 8. And what makes it special is because it's digital and it's controlling a microprocessor inside that controls some really high performance volume ICs. It gives you the ability to do multiple things with it. Out of the box, it's just sub-level control. But say, for example, on a Link 4, this is a common use case with Link 4, is it gets used as a standalone piece without even using the speaker level inputs. It has an auxiliary input on it that you can just plug a Bluetooth dongle in and use it as your main source, say for a classic car or a golf cart or side-by-side, and use the knob as the master volume control. Well, these little dip switches on the back allow you to tell the processor what this knob should do. Like I said, by default, it's a sub-level control, but you can change it to be the master volume for a standalone system, and then press and hold for the sub-level control without accidentally switching to the speaker level inputs signal connected there. So the Link 2 is a little bit different than the 6 and 8, is because it's only 4 channels. It sums up, whereas the Link 6 and the Link 8, they sum down. Now this is our independent channel summing. You know, the 4 has it, but it becomes more obvious with the 6 because you've got more channels. So you can put in a 2-way, a 3-way, a front 2-way, and a rear full range. And because of our independent channel summing, you can actually choose which outputs you want the sum to come out of, or not sum at all. So you're not limited by summing down to a 2-channel bus. You're actually summing independently by channel as you go down the inputs from channel 1, 2 to 3, 4. And even in the case of say with the Link 6, even in the case of a factory 3-way, so you have a factory front 3-way, well, normally you would get 2 channels out, and then you'd have to do something else to get a sub-level control. You'd have to use the one that comes to your amp or something. But in the case of the Link 6, you can actually sum down to a 3-way. That comes out of channel 5, 6, and then there's a switch under the RCAs on channel 1, 2 that allow you to redirect that full range summed 3-way signal as a full range output out of channel 1, 2. So you can preserve the sub-level control ability and still have a separate full range set of RCA outs. Now, when you get up to the Link 8, that adds even more flexibility, just a little bit bigger to accommodate 8 channels. Now, the Link 8 can sum up to a 4-way system, and this becomes even more flexible. Say if you had a factory front 2-way and a factory rear 2-way, you could actually sum those separately, so you get a full range out for the front out of 3, 4, and then the other full range out of 7, 8 for the rear 2-way, and you'd preserve fading. You'd still be able to use the factory radio control to adjust the fade, And because of that reroute capability, I could still take that factory rear signal and reroute it to channel 1, 2, use that for my rear, and then my 7/8 for sub-level control. So because of our independent channel summing and the way that our processors work, ultimate flexibility. That's why, you know, we address 95% of the use cases out there with these core 6 models, and especially these 3 that do everything I just talked about. Of course, also including all the features of the Link of input, built-in loading, the ability to turn the load on or off, the simultaneous auto turn on, the over 10 volts of RMS output, and just as small, as low profile, as compact as a chassis as you can imagine.
All right, so we've taken the time and covered what I'll call some of the bigger pieces, but there's a lot of hidden gems within the Wavtech catalog when it comes to specific items that do specific jobs. And we're going to go through a couple of these important ones, starting with the very unique IRED.
Yeah, the IRED is a really unique piece. It's actually patented, and it does 3 core things. It's an ignition generator. It's a delay device, so you can use it to solve system thumps, turn on and turn off, and it's a stop start solution. So talk about the ignition part first. It's really tiny. It's actually a little micro controller in there, and it can be programmed in less than a minute to know when the engine is running, the voltage that the alternator is putting out when the engine is running, and then also when the engine is off, so the battery voltage is resting. And it uses that through a unique algorithm that gives you a threshold. So every time the engine is started, it gives you a triggered output, and that triggered output can be used out of the ignition output terminal, can be used to run small electronic devices directly, such as dash cams or radar detectors. And it can also be used to turn on your factory system. Say if you can't find an ignition or turn on, or it's a unique case where the auto turn on of whatever product you're using isn't working, you can use it to generate a true ignition. And in a lot of cars, you can waste a lot of time looking for a switched wire. Could be from a cigarette lighter, but a lot of cars are bus driven. They don't even have that. So save you a lot of time, give you a true ignition in just a minute of programming, just tagging a power and ground, a 12-volt power and ground anywhere in the car, and you can generate a switched output. Now, in stop-start cars, that'll be a problem if every time the engine's shutting off and then starting up again, a lot of amplifiers can't handle that. They don't like that voltage drop when the starter is cranking. It pulls the battery voltage down to the point where most amps will shut down. Our amps are stop start ready, but most amps will cause a reset or restart, and that would be really annoying. You know, you're losing your sound every time you stop start. So we have a delay built in there. You can delay the turn on up to 5 seconds and the turn off up to 10 minutes in 1 minute increments for the ignition. So that'll prevent any of that, the loss of sound for the stop start. Now, on bigger systems, that could be a problem if the amplifier itself is just drawing too much juice. It's gonna cycle. The IRED can be used to control an isolation solenoid, which will actually separate the amplifier or the auxiliary battery from the main starting battery every time the engine is shut off. So it's an automatic battery isolation controller in a separate mode. Now, for everyday practical use, if you don't need the ignition generation and you have a remote trigger, depending on which brands you're mixing and matching, you can run into these conflicts, these turn-on conflicts, that you get a massive turn-on thump or turn-off thump. And actually, the IRED can be used as a pure delay device as well. You can have the remote input as the trigger, and then you can delay that turn on and turn off up to 5 seconds either way. So you can use it to eliminate system thumps. So it's a 3-in-1 device, super practical. Does all sorts of unique things, applications such as even, you know, preventing your battery from getting drains. You can set the turn off, you know, up to 10 minutes if you're running off battery. You can shut down the system.
All right, so that was interesting device number 1 in the IRED. Now, Jay, the next one is even smaller but mighty nonetheless, and it's called the ART.
Yeah, the ART is an alternative way to get a remote trigger that you can use to run small electronic devices like, you know, dash cams, radar detectors, things like that. But instead of using the ignition detection, it actually uses the identical circuit that we have in all of our LOCs and preamps. It's our auto detect, our independent simultaneous audio and DC offset detect that you can use to tag off of any one channel of speaker output in the vehicle, whether it's after a factory amp or after a factory radio. Just tag the plus and minus from any speaker line, and it will give you an automatic turn on. Whether it's a Class D system, it will detect by audio because they're both on by default, or if it's a traditional BTL chipset source, it'll detect off of a DC offset, and it'll give you up to 1.5 amps of output that's enough to drive a lot of small electronic devices. So it's a quick and easy solution. Just tag the rear speaker in or the front speaker or the dash tweeter or where the most convenient wires are located, and use it just purely for its ability to turn on and turn off aftermarket equipment.
And our final nifty device in this trio of small devices, but very important to have, is a little one called the LINK LD. Now, Jay, this one probably you want to have handy in the shop at all times.
So the LINK LD is an add-on plug-in loading module, and all of our LOCs have built-in loading, but there's a few corner cases where it's not quite enough for what the factory load detect system is looking for. Say late model Chryslers, started happening on some platforms about 2016 on up. Most new Chryslers have that. There's some other cars like Subarus and things that need more loading than we have built in. But the beauty of that is we do have loading already built in, so our external loading device can be extremely small. This LINK LD can also handle up to 40 volts of RMS input, 20 RMS continuous, and this lowers the impedance from our built-in load down to 36 ohms, which is enough for 2 channels. So it's a 2-channel module. It just plugs right in line with our normal plug, in and out, and it'll drop the input impedance or the load that the factory system is seeing down to 36 ohms, and that'll satisfy the factory load detect and prevent it from throwing an error or muting that channel and that kind of stuff. So it's a great accessory to keep around, super small. It's actually even a little bit smaller than the ART, super thin, and you can put it anywhere.
And last but not least, although not typically a standalone integration device, the new amplifiers that we did spend a lot of time talking about at length during our car audio sessions, there are some important features here for you guys to understand when it comes to using Wavtech amplifiers for OEM integration. Jay, what can you elaborate on the different things or the scenarios that these amps are incredibly good at?
Sure, Ben. Yeah, we took a very unique approach. We actually built an amplifier around our LOC and preamp input stage, and so extremely small. This is the Link 300.4 mini, and this is a 75 by 4 RMS at 2 ohm 4-channel. It has essentially 2 Link 4s built into it, because the Link 4, as I was explaining before, you can sum a factory 2-way to full range and then still pass through a sub channel through channel 3-4. Well, in the case of an amplifier, you don't have a separate gain, so we had to combine all these things together. So you can actually sum a factory 2-way and drive the front channels separately than the rear channels, have an independent gain, and then at the end, if you still want a gain difference, we have what's called a level trim at the end, and that allows you to adjust the final output after you've achieved your sum and the frequency response you want. For any application, whether it's upfront stage and rear fill, or you're using it in 3-channel mode and you want the bass hotter, that level trim gives you the ability to provide that final adjustment after your sum. Also unique to the amplifiers, because we have a little bit more real estate, they're still super tiny, but it does give you the ability to sum up to factory 2-way, and then with the input channels here, you can select where you want it to go. So that's right on top, and like the other models. But then the input range, these also have the dual input range, but that applies to both the RCA and the speaker level input. So it has both on it. Right here, you can see the input plugs, and so you can feed RCA up to, so it's have a 5-volt range, which is most typical aftermarket radios. It has a 10-volt range, so you could actually have it after a DSP or a line driver or anything like that. And then on the speaker level inputs, it's got a 20 volt and a 40 volt range that's selectable right here on top. Clipping indicators, so you know where your gain's set at, and of course high pass and low pass crossovers. Now on the mono is what used to be one of our products called the Bass Freak, and it was a bass specific LOC that had a parametric EQ built into it. So this actually has the Bass Freak processor built into it, And so that gives you full parametric EQ, fully adjustable parametric EQ. So you have your boost, your width, and your frequency. Also, 24 dB per octave, low pass, and subsonic filters. So it gives you the ultimate flexibility, just like all of our other preamps, LOCs, and the 4-channel, all the same input capabilities, up to 40 volts of input, RCA or speaker input, but it gives you full tuning capability for the subwoofer that you're running. So especially like with a ported subsonic is really important to keep it from unloading below the tuning frequency. And by having super steep crossovers, which is really unique, there's very few amplifiers that have both 24 dB subsonic and low pass, certainly none that have it with a parametric EQ. So all those three things combined make it the bass freak processor and get you the ultimate bass performance. And of course, you can add on an optional remote, the Link RC. It's the same optional remote that you can add on to a Link DQ LOC. Super small, 2 ohm stable, 500 watts RMS. All of our amps are underrated between 15 and 30%. So you're guaranteed you're going to have plenty of power headroom, and they go anywhere because they're just as tiny as possible. Everything that we did on our preamp lineup, we took all that and then some and made these just super small, efficient. They're all stop start ready, so they can work in a stop start vehicle without needing an IRED. They'll operate at power all the way down to below 7 volts. All the way over 16 volts, so they're Tesla ready as well. And they have a thermal rollback circuit, which I think there's only 2 brands in the world that have that. Based on all of our experience, having done many amplifiers over the last 20-30 years, this is the culmination of all of our expertise in the integration side of things, and then also amplification for the ultimate sound performance.
That was Chief Technology Officer JASON Kemmerer from Wavtech joining us, walking us through all the great products when it comes to OEM integration, and really giving us the details on the things you need to know of why Wavtech products work the way they do. Now, if you're interested in finding out more on any of the products we covered on today's show, make sure you head over to their official website, seen here at Wavtech USA. Now, if you happen to be a Canadian dealer tuning in, then of course you already know Importel is their distribution partner. On that note, I reached out to our good friend, the 12-volt Viking, Jaron Gelmalan, to get some perspective on all these great tools that Wavtech offers. Now, Jaron, Wavtech and Importel go way back. It's been a really great partnership. But as time progresses, OEM integration becomes more and more relevant. I feel that now more than ever, dealers certainly need to rely on and pay attention to these fantastic products from Wavtech.
Yeah, you can't have OEM integration sessions without including Wavtech. Like, to me, they're the go-to for it. And Ben put it right. These are tools that you need in your install bay. As necessity is wire strippers, you need all these different options, all these different SKUs to integrate with these higher-end factory systems that they're coming out with now. Gone are the days of just 4 speakers in a car that gave full range to each speaker. That was simple integration. Now you got factory 2-way, factory 3-way setups, and upgrading audio has been so much harder on the audio side, and then on the electronic side with start-stop vehicles. You got Teslas coming out that are 16 volts. Everyone got rid of ignitions and accessories. It's harder for installers, and I don't envy them nowadays. But having a brand partner like Wavtech has made it easier, more manageable for installers out there to be able to integrate with these OEM systems, and just been great.
Now, Jaron, Jason really did walk us through all the important items. You know, we talked about the Link DQ, we talked about the bass restore, which obviously is a go-to, and of course the breakdown of all the different Link LOC units. But one thing he snuck in at the end there is their new product, which is Amplifiers, and I feel this is a big one because literally, from what I understand, they have married everything they know from a technology standpoint as far as integration, and now bonded that with Amplifier in a small chassis. How has this been received since last we spoke?
Certainly, it's been a great joining of 2 product lines together, like the OEM integration side and then the amplifier side. And the team at Wavtech is vastly experienced in both sides of it. So you have the Link 300.4, and you also have the 500.4, so a little more power, and then the Link 500.1. and then you step up to the Link 1000.1. So you got 4 different amplifiers in the line, depending on how much power you're wanting and what kind of system you're building. And to put all those together as a complete package, and it's a small complete package. You saw Jason holding that little 4-channel amplifier. It's a go-to for a lot of our dealers out there for putting amplifiers in the vehicle, and they have the power of the OEM integration of Wavtech behind it, which is a great combination of both.
Well, big shout out to my 2 guests for joining us today. Of course, Jason Kemmerer from Wavtech, as well as Jaron Gelmalon from Importel. And I want to reflect a little bit on what Jaron has said there. You know, the OEM integration is not getting less important. In fact, it's taking up more and more space in all of our bays. Having said that, it is fantastic to see brands like Wavtech continuously innovating and investing into the future of OEM integration. I feel they have a leg up because what they have built their name on is quite literally at the foundation of everything built afterwards. These new amplifiers are a testament to that statement. Add to that the great selection with all the different LOC options, depending on the scenario that you have to tackle, whether it requires signal summing or all the different scenarios that could possibly play out. Who knows? I haven't seen them all. Maybe you guys haven't seen them all yet, but rest assured that if there is an issue and there's a challenge, Wavtech more than likely has the device ready to go to fix that problem. That's it for this CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.
There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM with over 150 channels in your vehicle. Your Platinum Plan offer includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video on Demand. What you love is on now.